welcome back to the channel that knows nothing. I'm Jem, and let's get to it. Today we are reading My Adventures with the Velveteen Rabbit. There was once a Velveteen Rabbit, and in the beginning he was really splendid. He was plump and cuddly as a rabbit should be. His coat was spotted brown and white. He had real thread whiskers, and his ears were lined with pink satin. On Christmas morning he sat wedged in the top of Rebecca's stocking with a sprig of holly between his paws. There were other things in the stocking, but the rabbit was the best of all. For at least 2 hours Rebecca played with him, and then lots of visitors came, and there was a great unwrapping of presents. And in all the excitement, the Velveteen Rabbit was forgotten. For a long time he lived in the toy cupboard, and no one thought much of him. The little rabbit thought the other more expensive toys were all stuffed with sawdust like him, but they teased the Velveteen Rabbit and said he was not real. The only person who was kind to him was the Skin Horse. Now Skin Horse had lived longer in the house than any of the others. Rebecca had a ride on him every day, and when Tony came to play he rode on Skin Horse as well. He had seen many mechanical toys who thought they were the best toys in the world, only to have their springs break and become useless. Toyland magic was wonderful. Only those playthings that are old and wise like Skin Horse understand all about it. Does real mean having things that buzz inside you and wheels and things? Asked the rabbit one day. Real isn't how you're made, said Skin Horse. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Does it happen all at once, like being wound up? The rabbit asked. Or bit by bit? It takes a long time, said Skin Horse. By the time you're real, most of your hair has been loved off and your button eyes have been dropped out, and you are very shabby. Skin Horse rocked back and forth. But these things don't matter. Once you're real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. Are you real? Asked the rabbit. Skin Horse smiled. Long ago a child loved me, and this made me real. Once you become real, it lasts for always. The rabbit sighed. He longed to become real, and yet the idea of becoming shabby and losing his button eyes and whiskers was rather sad. One evening when Rebecca was going to bed, she looked into the toy cupboard. Oh, here's my bunny, she whispered to herself. That night, and for many nights after, the Velveteen Rabbit slept in Rebecca's bed. He soon grew to like it. Rebecca made nice tunnels for him under the bedclothes. She said that they were like real burrows rabbits lived in. When Rebecca dropped off to sleep, the rabbit would snuggle down close and dream with Rebecca's hands clasped close around him all night long. Time went on. The little rabbit was so happy that he never noticed how his beautiful velveteen fur was getting shabby, and his tail became unsewn, and all the pink rubbed off his nose where Rebecca had kissed him. Springtime came, and Rebecca and the Velveteen Rabbit had long days in the garden, for wherever Rebecca went, the rabbit went too. He had rides in the wheelbarrow and picnics on the grass, and once, when Rebecca was called away suddenly for tea, the rabbit was left outside until long after dusk. He was wet through with the dew and quite grubby from diving into tunnels that Rebecca had made for him in the garden. A big person picked him up, rubbed the dirt off him, and took him back to Rebecca, grumbling, "Fancy all that for a toy." Rebecca sat up in bed and stretched out her arms. "Give me my bunny. He isn't a toy. He's real." When the little rabbit heard that, he was happy. He was real. Rebecca herself had said it. He knew what Skin Horse had said was true at last. The magic had happened to him, and he was no longer a toy. That night, he was almost too happy to sleep. So much love stirred in his little heart, it almost burst. That was a wonderful summer. Rebecca and Tony went to a holiday house near a big forest. Rebecca took the Velveteen Rabbit on long walks amongst the trees. She made little nests for him where he could be cozy while she played with her friend. Late one afternoon, while the rabbit was lying there alone, he saw two strange things creep out of the tall grass near him. They were rabbits, just like himself, but quite furry and brand new. They must have been very well made, for their seams didn't show at all, and they changed shapes in a queer way when they moved instead of always staying the same like he did. They crept quite close to him. The Velveteen Rabbit stared hard to see where their clockwork winders stuck out their backs, but he couldn't see anything. They must be a new kind of rabbit altogether. "Why don't you get up and play with us?" one of them asked. But the Velveteen Rabbit didn't want to explain that he had no clockwork. "Can you hop on your hind legs?" asked the furry rabbit. That was a dreadful question, for the Velveteen Rabbit had no hind legs at all. The back of him was made all in one piece. He hoped the other rabbits wouldn't notice. But the wild rabbits have very sharp eyes. "Look, he hasn't got any hind legs," laughed one of the rabbits. "I have," cried the little Velveteen Rabbit. "I'm sitting on them." "Then stretch them out and show me, like this," said the wild rabbit, beginning to twirl around and dance. The Velveteen Rabbit was longing more than anything in the world to be able to jump and dance. The wild rabbit stopped and came so close that his long whiskers brushed the Velveteen Rabbit's ears. "Why, he isn't a rabbit at all," he said, and jumped backwards. "He isn't real." The little Velveteen Rabbit cried, "I am real. Rebecca said so." Just then, Rebecca and Tony ran past them. With a stamp of their feet and a flash of white tails, the two strange rabbits disappeared. "Come back and play with me," called the little rabbit. "I know I'm real." But there was no answer. The Velveteen Rabbit was all alone, and as the sun sank lower, Rebecca came and carried him home. Weeks passed, and the little rabbit grew very old and shabby, but Rebecca loved him just the same. She loved all his whiskers off. The little pink lining in his ears turned grey. His coat faded. He scarcely looked like a rabbit anymore, except to Rebecca. To her, he was always beautiful. One day, Rebecca was ill. Her face was flushed and she had to stay in bed. The little rabbit lay there, hidden under the bedclothes. He thought of lots of lovely games to play when Rebecca got better and whispered special plans in her ear. Soon Rebecca was sitting up in bed looking at picture books while the little rabbit cuddled close at her side. The day came when Rebecca was allowed out of bed. The little rabbit lay among the bedclothes listening to the big people talking about holiday plans, for Rebecca was going away. He could hear a big person speaking. "I think this is a good chance to sort out some of these old toys. Just look at this old bunny. Time to throw him out. Today is Rebecca's birthday, so we'll buy her a new bunny." And the little rabbit was put in a bag, along with a lot of rubbish, and carried out to the end of the garden. Later that day, Rebecca was given a splendid new white plush bunny. When she fell asleep that night, she was too excited dreaming about her holiday to think about anything else. The little Velveteen Rabbit lay among the rubbish and felt very lonely. The bag had been left untied, and so by wiggling a bit, he was able to get his head through the opening and look out. He could see the garden where he had played with Rebecca on sunlit mornings, and a great sadness came over him. He remembered the wonderful day when Rebecca said he was real. Of what use was it to be loved and lose someone's beauty and become real if it all ended like this? A real tear trickled down his shabby velvet nose and fell to the ground. And then a strange thing happened. Where the tear had fallen, a beautiful flower grew out of the ground, so beautiful that the little rabbit forgot to cry and lay there watching it. The petals opened, and out of it stepped the loveliest fairy in the world. She gathered up the little rabbit in her arms and kissed him on his soft nose. "I'm the Toyland Fairy," she said. "I take care of all the old and worn-out playthings that children have loved. When they are not needed anymore, I take them with me and make them real." "Wasn't I real before?" asked the little rabbit. "You were real to Rebecca," the fairy said, because she loved you. Now you shall be real to everyone. She held the little rabbit close in her arms and flew into the forest. The moon had risen. In an open glade between the tree trunks, the wild rabbits danced. When they saw the fairy, they stopped and stood in a ring, staring. "I've brought you a new playfellow," the fairy said. "You must be kind to him and teach him all the things he needs to know about Rabbitland. He's going to live with you forever and ever." She kissed the little rabbit again and put him down on the grass. "Run and play, little rabbit," she said. The little rabbit sat very still. He didn't know that the last kiss had changed him altogether. Something trickled down his nose and he lifted up his hind leg to scratch it. He had hind legs! They were no longer one piece. Instead of the dingy velveteen, he now had soft brown fur. His ears twitched by themselves, and his whiskers were so long they brushed the grass. He gave a leap of joy. He was a real rabbit at last, at home with all the other rabbits. The seasons passed, and in the warm and sunny spring days, Rebecca and Tony once more came to stay at the holiday house near the forest. While Rebecca was playing, two rabbits crept out from the long grass and looked at her. One of the rabbits had strange markings under his fur, as though long ago he had been spotted, and the spots still showed through. Rebecca stood very still and looked at the little rabbit. "Why," she said, "he looks just like my lovely old bunny that I lost after I was ill." But Rebecca never knew that it was really her own Velveteen rabbit, come back to look at the child who had first helped him to be real. And that's the end. This story is not the original Velveteen rabbit. I'm quite aware of that. This is my own version that my grandparents gave to me for my birthday. Hence why there's some more personal details in here that I've taken out for this reading. And also it's not exactly the same as the original retelling of the Velveteen rabbit. I'm quite aware of that because I have read the original Velveteen rabbit. It's not like this. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed me reading this book for you today. Please like, subscribe because it's always nice, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.